two awesome ladies. Welcome, Sheba, for this conversation on
Thank you.
stopping performing and trusting the process as a coach. And congratulations
Yeah.
on your PCC certification. What great news! Amazing. So, how are you feeling?
Thank you
Let's
so
start.
much.
How are you feeling?
Feeling great. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
There's, yeah,
That's one of the
a
questions
little
we ask.
accomplished.
How are you feeling after receiving the PCC certification? So Meena is she's a success coach and a leadership coach, and she her niche is specifically new leaders in technology. Am I right, Meena?
Yeah.
And Sheba is a leadership and success coach, and I am really honored to have you here. So I'd just like to kind of begin this live with both of you talking a little about how you're feeling and in the moment, and just a brief about yourself, please.
Sheba, you
Meena, would
want to
you
go
like to?
first?
Yeah,
Oh, you
yeah.
want
Meena, you
to?
go
All
first.
right. Okay. Okay. So it feels like it's been a while since I got my PCC because it was such a big moment when it happened. I think it was a few weeks back now, and it seems like a long time ago.
Yeah.
It is a very good feeling because I was waiting to get it done for a long time. So I'm just very happy and very relieved as well that it's over, and that we can mark that occasion and
And
there's
you
more
are
to
finally
do.
a professionally certified coach. Yay!
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
climbing the mountain, right? Got to
yeah.
the summit, at least for
Awesome.
now. So, yeah. So that was a very good feeling. And I think you've covered quite a lot in the introduction, Shweta, but as such, I coach new leaders because that's my passion.
Mhm.
I've noticed that a lot of coaching tends to be for executives. So my niche is more for people earlier on in the journey when they don't even know they need coaching or they're not given coaching. Because I believe in early intervention. For me, it is always like, why can't you do it earlier rather than wait till
Yeah,
you're further along and then do it? So that was the intention of picking this niche. And yeah,
amazing.
so yeah.
So before we quick move on to Shiva, quickly, how long did it take for you, if I may ask that question, to kind of when you started the PCC journey to when you got the certification? How long?
Um, so totally, including my ACC, it was 4 years. So my
Wow.
ACC, I think, was about 8 months to 8 to 10 months. But your PCC includes that because the 500 hours is the hours that you've done, the 100 plus 400, right? So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for those who don't know, you need to complete 500 hours for your PCC certification. And let's go to Sheba. Sheba, how are you feeling? And a little about yourself, please.
Happy that, it almost feels like an accomplishment, although, it's not an end. It's a journey and it continues, but definitely feels like really good because it took such a while.
Uh,
For me, it took about a year and a half, approximately, just to do the PCC. And I got my ACC back I started that training in 2019, so it's been a while.
yeah.
And obviously, I was able to do more hours as well. But yeah, like Meena said, it seems like too far away. I've been a PCC also for a few weeks now, but still feels so new and it feels so great even now. Still reveling in that.
Yeah, amazing. So congratulations again, both of
Yes,
you.
thank you.
And why I asked you how long it took is also because during that term, even I've realized as I'm on my PCC journey, it changes you as you keep moving along, right? You don't realize it sometimes you do. Uh, Particularly when you're a client yourself, I would say you realize it more in your daily interactions. So, if I may ask you, looking back, when you first started coaching as an ACC coach to now, all this time in between, all the transformation, the journey, what do you think coaching is now versus what you thought then? Yeah, I'm just going to stop at that question.
Okay. So I I think when I started my ACC, I had been coaching, or I thought I had been coaching before that because I was an agile coach. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, all of the learning around the ICF framework was very fun and very exciting, and I think that it gave ACC was all about structure. Like, because it was so new, the structure itself opened up quite a lot of things for me, starting with CC3, doing a CC8, and everything in between. But I think with PCC, it was a lot about depth and also freedom for me, like I think if when I read the ICF framework even now, and even the code of ethics, there's a lot of words. What do those words actually mean? I thought they meant specific things in the ACC journey, but in the PCC, in my PCC journey, I could understand the nuance of, oh, this could mean this. So you have to be empathic and you also challenge. So how do those two work together? And then also beliefs about myself as a coach. I used to think, oh, coaches are very nice people. I still believe that, but now it's more like, oh, we're very human. We can be very weird and very wonderful in our own ways, and no two coaches are the same. And I think that is what changed for me. That humanness of
Yeah.
coaching. So yeah,
And the niceness too. Like, you don't really have to be nice
you
all
don't
the
have to be nice.
time. Along with the depth and you also mentioned freedom, right? I heard freedom
Yeah.
and depth. So if you could actually look at that and share what probably you had to unlearn some things, you had to do some things different. What particularly in terms of personal transformation as a coach did you feel was really key with your PCC versus ACC?
So I think it was more the internal shifts for me. Like I was talking about the being nice versus being human, right? That itself is a belief, right? So when I was doing my ACC, the focus was a lot on the client. Of course, I had shifts myself. I became a better listener and things like that. But I was always thinking about, okay, what do I ask the client? Or am I listening? Or am I present? But in the PCC journey, I realized that, it's not just the client who's part of their systems, it's also us as coaches. We bring our own stuff. And so, working through that was very transformational for me. And we have very good mentors, and we have a very good supervisor. So, taking some of the hard things that came up in the conversations and thinking about what it meant for me as a coach was very useful to me.
Yeah. And I think it's a little difficult for someone who hasn't really traveled that path up until now. And I think this makes it, I would say, warmer to look forward to now that, oh, something like that can happen. Like you were saying earlier, you knew something like that could happen,
Yeah.
but you didn't know how.
Yeah.
So kind of. And Sheba, how was it for you? Like, what is now coaching for you now as a PCC certified coach? The professionally certified coach. I love saying the whole thing, professionally certified, because sounds so classy, right?
Yeah, it does.
So what? Yeah. So how do you see coaching now? And probably if you had to unlearn a few things, what were they?
So when I was given ACC, I was dedicated to following the coaching framework, the powerful questioning, and in a way, I felt responsible for the outcomes as well. And if a conversation didn't go as I thought it should go, I would feel like it was my fault somehow, right? Because maybe I didn't ask the brilliant questions that I was supposed to ask. But the PCC
Mm.
journey actually helped change that thought. I mean, I evolved as a coach wherein I was listening more. It made me be present in the moment. And while the questioning and framework were important, it was more important to be in the moment, which could give the coachee a great experience, right? That they're getting something out of it, and to trust that the process is going to work itself out. It wasn't about the sophisticated questioning. It was more about being there, listening to them, and picking the questions from their experience that's happening in the moment. And that kind of changed the whole process, changed my experience. I started trusting myself more, because I knew that I could trust the process, and I felt that I understood that the coaches or the clients are resourceful on their own, and I'm not responsible for the outcome. I think that was a huge shift from ACC to PCC.
Yeah, so I think we kept hearing this, and the mentors talk about um, this thing that you're not responsible, but yet you are somehow. You feel responsible, and yet you are in charge. Yet you're partnering. So what Meena was saying, like kind of all those things come together is what I'm hearing. And the
Yeah,
process, I have a quote from Sheba where we were talking, and you said that with the shift in PCC, the quality of presence outweighed the quality of the question. And I'm connecting
absolutely.
that to what you just
Absolutely.
said. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So PCC definitely helped in that evolution, right? Where I was just focused on how good my questions are, and I'm trying to be all the sophisticated person asking these brilliant questions. And then I realized that yes, questions are important, but what's happening in the moment if I'm not present, if
Hmm.
I'm not if if I'm not being with the client or the coachee, then I'm missing the whole point. I'm missing the whole crux of the thing. So that exactly is the quality of presence definitely overshadows now the quality
Yeah.
of questioning.
And tying into what Meena was saying, tying in what you're saying now to what Meena was saying earlier, that there are challenges that come across in that 500. It's a long journey. The different types of people, I'm sure, must be coming to you, talking about different things. Even within the niche of leadership and success, there's so many nuances, and like you mentioned, Meena, beautifully, that the struggles when you discuss them with the mentors, and Rekha as a supervisor, who's also a PCC mentor, by the way, we got lucky. Um, and kind of that evolution, because evolution was a word you both used, I think, if I'm correct, Meena, you used it too, where from doing to being, from from, just basic listening to listening with presence. What do you think transformed within you as a person if you saw yourself, let's say, a couple of years ago or just a year ago to now? What would you say, Meena, has shifted within you as a person, as not just a coach, but as a person?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, the thing for me, there was no dramatic moment, like, right? Like, because it was so long, I think with PCC, a lot of life happens in between. With ACC, you can actually sprint like 100 hours, it gets done.
Yeah.
Uh, and when I went into PCC, one of the ways I used to motivate myself was saying, it's 5 into 100. It's not 5 into 100. It's a lot of life and a lot of things that are happening. And then you're doing your
True.
PCC with that. So it's an excellent opportunity to actually work on yourself, within that structure itself.
Absolutely.
Um, and I always think, I've faced myself in moments, like for instance when I felt tired or like giving up, and
Mhm.
every time there's been a shift, so I've come back and it's helped me. And a lot of it is just what I've seen in the coaching also happens in life, like okay, better listening, we see all those things, but also like speaking your mind, courage, freedom, being able to say what you mean and mean it, and listening to a person beyond the words, and then accepting that, because we're not always in coaching conversations. We don't have the permission, but we can always show up in certain ways. And I think all of those things have really helped me. I've been able to step away from certain things, um, walk into and accept new challenges without completely knowing what the outcome will be, just like we do in a coaching conversation. So I've been able to do a few of these things, and I think a lot of it had to do with the journey itself.
And anything reminiscent right now, which was really transformative, if you were like, wow, I did that, and I didn't know I could have done that if I was not, in this coaching space. Anything that you could share with our audience today that was like real transformation?
So for me now, I coach full time, and that's something I never thought was possible because I've always been a salaried employee, and that's a very
Mm-hmm.
comfortable space. So stepping out of that,
Yeah.
was difficult, but also really, really fun, exciting, challenging. I think, all these things come together. So, uh, yes, that was something I didn't imagine before I started my PCC journey. And I've gotten a lot of confidence from going through the whole process. So, yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. Thank you for sharing that. Sheba, we'd like to hear from
Yeah.
you. What changed for you as a person and personal transformation, maybe?
What changed was the listening part, right? The listening became deeper, definitely deeper, and less transactional. Everything is not about, like I said earlier, right? The questions and the outcomes. It wasn't about that anymore. It was actually about listening and learning about the person more than anything else. And not just looking for answers, but looking for values, beliefs, things that were not said, whether it's personal or whether it's professional. And I also coach full time. So obviously meet a number of people on a daily basis. Um, what changed was in my private life, personal life as well. The listening part really improved. And I wasn't jumping into answer. I was really waiting, holding that space and being calm and composed because I was listening to understand. And that really changed. It was very helpful. I think my relationships have blossomed ever since I've done my pieces. Through that journey, it has really evolved for me.
That's wonderful to hear. When your personal relationships blossom, me being a relationship coach,
Yes.
I actually have so many tools that can help a client blossom, and it coming from themselves. And you said listening for values and beliefs, things that the client cannot really see on their own in the moment. And what would you say, let's start with you, Sheba, with this question. What has changed for, you said few weeks since you've been PCC and you're coaching people on a daily basis. What do you think, I mean, I know it's not really, like Meena said, an overnight dramatic process,
Mm.
but if you could look at one of your clients where after your journey of 500 hours and the credential of PCC, or even while you were approaching those 500 hours versus someone you coach, like let's say even 100 sessions ago, what transformation do you see in your clients if you could compare two of them, one now and one 100, 200 hours earlier? What
Yeah.
would you say to that?
Like I said, before the PCC, it was outcome driven.
Mm,
What am I? It was my performance as opposed to trusting the process. So during
right.
ACC, it was all the framework, all the questioning. What am I? How am I performing? When I was going through the
Yeah.
coaching conversation, it was always what would be my next question, rather than what should I ask here because I'm in the moment. So
Yeah.
between from ACC to PCC, that is the shift. I'm no longer, when I'm holding space, my mind has quietened. I'm not thinking of the next question. I'm thinking of how can I make this experience for better for the coachee, right? What are they
Mm,
experiencing in the moment? How am I creating an environment for them which helps them find their breakthroughs? I am not providing that breakthrough. They're coming to it on their own. So I'm providing that medium by holding the space, and I'm not rushing. I'm calm. So that's definitely, I think, if that same coachee were to see me from ACC to PCC, I think that would be the difference.
yeah, beautiful. I loved how, when you were talking about it, it seemed like a whole systemic thing changing where it, like, one element changing the other, and then like the client changing the coachee and the coach changing the client and the environment and the
Mm.
space that you're holding. It seems like such a beautiful energy that's kind of growing all the time and expanding is what it sounded like to me.
It's like a
And
symphony.
Meena, yeah, absolutely. What a beautiful word. It's like a symphony. It's not just you, it's not just the client, it's the whole process. And I often wondered, when the mentors would talk about it, when Subhash would talk about it, or Rekha would talk about it, it's going to happen. And even I would be like, when and how? So it's so beautiful the way you guys are describing that it's a process and it evolves, and everybody has their own evolutionary journey. Meena, what would you say? Any dramatic or not so dramatic differences between your coachee at 500 hours or, from 500 to 300? What was the shift?
So I think for me, noticeably what I could do better, because this 300, 500, they're all points in the journey where we submit recordings and we get feedback. What I noticed about myself was the observations I shared with the client based on what I was noticing in the moment was more useful to them, because of the listening. Uh,
Yeah.
Maybe previously I noticed it as well, but I would be wondering, am I saying it the right way, or is it okay to do it now? Now I just say it, but I ask for permission and I accept whatever their reaction to it is. So I think those skills came about because of the journey. If there was one thing that I can pinpoint and say, I think that's something I do much better now than I did before.
So I'm hearing so much of shift and confidence in the way you approach the conversation, in the way you can hold space, the presence. And even though we're saying listening, we all know, if you are on the PCC journey or if you've done your 100, 200 hours, you know that it's we're saying listening, but it kind of encompasses so much more than just listening. The presence, the listening, the evoking awareness, the kind of stopping to doubt yourself and allowing the question to be, not to produce a question. It's like, oh my god, I have to produce a question. It's like, so there's so many nuances, and what I'm hearing and what I'm also noticing with my own journey, and correct me if you think that's wrong, if you want to add something to it, is that it's a process. And with the support of the mentors, with the support of the peer group, it kind of is a beautiful journey where there's a lot of personal transformation happening. There's a lot of professional value that you can give, the confidence changes. And I mean, if I may ask you, because there's a question a lot of coaches ask at ACC level, will I be able to charge more after my PCC certification? What would you say to that?
I think it depends. So I think with the PCC, there's some sections of the industry that understand it very well, like corporates, which with very established HR functions, they do get what a PCC is. But there's a lot of my clients who are just individuals who don't get what it means. So my pricing is based on my niche. Like I did a lot of research on how much they can afford to pay, and I priced my services accordingly. I don't think I would drastically up my prices because I got a PCC. But yeah, so it depends. It depends on the segment you're working with, and
Of course.
yeah, and whether they understand the significance of what you've achieved, and that counts in some way.
So I have a question here, Meena.
Yeah,
Because that's something I've been considering a lot too, in terms of when I finish my PCC certification, am I hiking up my prices?
yeah.
And I'd like to ask you for input also. But I want to ask you, like, let's say, even though and you did say it depends on your niche and what people are willing to pay, of course, that makes sense. But, one thing even when I was peer coaching, I realize that a lot of people have a problem, including me sometimes, have a problem having the confidence to ask for an X amount, thinking that, oh, it's too much for coaching. So even though you're not, my question to you is, even though you're not hiking your prices up right away, but what happens to the confidence of asking for more? What happens to that energy? And how does that affect your coaching?
Okay, so for me, this ties back to partnering and treating the client as an equal in the process. So when you ask for money, you have to be part of that equation just as much as the client should be. So, and when
Wow.
you're sure that that is how much value you bring, it's more an internal blocker as opposed to what the client feels or says. So we don't think that with doctors or engineers, right? We don't say, oh, come on, do pro bono if you have a little bit of time, come and sit with me and develop a. We don't say that. So it's the same thing. We're professionals. By all means, if we can do pro bono work. That's a choice. And that should be really something, in my opinion, that is needed for the client at the moment,
Mhm.
and there should be partnering there as well. So, yeah, I would say that asking for money and getting paid is part of the partnering equation.
Beautiful. Sheba, what are your views on that?
In on that. And if you're not asking for more money, it's really an internal blocker. So that partnering piece really works. But I work with mid to senior level managers and directors and all of that. And uh, some industries, some corporates and individuals and HR people understand the coaching standards and they understand what it means to be PCC. So yes, they're going to take that into account. It's just been a few weeks since I'm PCC, so it's not like I've gone up and like changed everything on my rate card or anything. But I think it's a part of it, right? If you feel confident enough to ask for more, you should.
Yeah. And I believe myself as well that the certification, not just the certification, because probably the certification is just an exam certification, all that we just spoke about, the transformation, the value that you're now giving versus
Hmm.
earlier. Kind of, and I loved what Meena said, that it has to work and honor. I'm going to add the word
Hmm.
honor you as a coach,
Yes.
as much as it's honoring the client. So thank you for that perspective. And I just want to let my audience know that if you have any other questions for Meena and Sheba, please feel free to put them in the chat. If we have time, we still have about 3.5 minutes to go. I would love to take them up. And in the meantime, I mean, this is a very, Karan Johar type of question. So if you were to kind of go back to your ACC self, now what is the one advice that you would give to her? Shiva, let's start with you.
Because when,
You,
can you hear me?
sorry, you could, now we can, yes.
I said trusting the process is what I'm going to say because I wasn't sure how this is all going to pan out. So between my ACC and PCC, I also got certified as a health and well-being coach. So it took me another 18 months in between that. And when I came to PCC, it was so while it's a health and well-being is still coaching, it's not the same as PCC. There are different elements to it. And when Subhash and Rekha and all used to say, trust the process, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I wasn't sure if I'm
Yeah,
going to get there. So I want to tell my ACC self, trust your mentors, trust the process, and it will happen.
wonderful. Thank
And
you.
this,
And Meena, what would you say? Sorry,
no, no,
Shiva. I'm
no.
so
I
sorry.
was,
I
I
thought you
was just going to add something to that credential bit that you were talking about, right?
please
That
go ahead.
these letters are just credentials are just letters, after your name. But what really changes is the confidence, the experience that you
Yeah.
bring into it, and how I show up in my conversations now because it's backed by the experience that gives me more confidence to trust myself, the client, and the process. That is what credentialing does, not just the PCC letters, but what it brings to you in that journey.
I love that. Thank you. That element of showing up as all of you, as more of you,
Yeah.
I would add to it. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like
No,
to
no,
add to
Meena,
that?
go for it.
So, very similar to Sheba, I think trust the process, but also focus on the process is what I'd say. Like every day showing up, being consistent. It's all the basic small things, but all these foundational things sometimes we all forget because what is obvious is not always easy to do, like showing up, being consistent, putting in the hours, making sure you have the discipline to track your logs and things like that. Because I've spoken to so many coaches who are like, we haven't updated our coaching logs. And I think these small wins really matter, telling yourself. I like ticking things, so I make a habit of that. I go put a little tick and give myself a star, and all those things work beautifully.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful. I'll have to do that. Even if I've done one coaching session in a week, I'll go there and put in my log
Yeah,
because that's huge motivation that, I've moved one session ahead.
yeah,
It's like
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah, and the small goals, because like I remember there was 100, I think between 300 and 400. I was a little slow, so I used to just try to get to the next 10. I'll be like, okay, I'm right now at 420, we'll get to 430. And when I get to 4:30, then I will try again. So, that is how I got to it. So I'd say trust and focus on the process, and you will get there if you keep showing up every day. That's what I've.
Beautiful. So showing up was a message that Sheba also communicated. You're saying the same thing. Trust the process. Trust yourself,
Yeah.
says Rekha. Trust the process, says Subhash. They're here watching the video. So grateful for you being here, Rekha and Subhash, and everyone else watching. And one last, very quick one-liner before we wind up. We're already at 30 minutes. So, if ACC is a craft, what would you say PCC is? You first, Meena.
Uh, PCC is also craft, but much deeper and working craft on yourself. Because, in ACC, we're focused on the process and the craft around that. But then you are the coach, you are the one showing up in that room. And so it's about working on yourself as well. So I think PCC is that equation, focusing more on that equation. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Shiva.
I would say if ACC is craft, PCC is art.
Oh, love that. Okay. Would you like to say add something to that?
No, I think
All
it's an art. Yeah,
right.
it comes with, like I said, it comes with the confidence, it comes with the trust, it comes with the experience. So yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your precious time with us here, inviting anyone who's sitting on the fence of ACC wondering whether they should take a PCC journey or not. I think this is quite a contributory and beneficial conversation. And if I may, can people from Regal reach out to you or outside also reach out to you if they want any more information about Regal, about the support system here, about our mentors and your journey? Would that be okay?
That's
Absolutely.
fine.
So where can they find you if they want to find you? LinkedIn, of
Yes,
course.
LinkedIn.
Awesome. So LinkedIn is a great space. And guys, you can put in your comments here also. Sheba and Meena will keep looking at them for the next week, I believe. And we'll answer any questions if there are any. Thank you so very much
Thank you,
for being here with
Shweta.
us.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Oh, take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.